Recently, I had a comment that was posted on one of my YouTube videos that it was kind of disappointed that I didn't do more videos. And the real reason is I really haven't had time. I probably will get back to them soon, but right now, uh, I've got other things in my life that I'm more interested in. But I did come across the fact that I had made a lot of Facebook Live videos, and there was a lot of good information in them that some of it wasn't in the videos that I had currently listed. So what I decided to do was list these to my YouTube channel. And I hope you enjoy them. I hope you find more knowledge in them. And also, if you're not a subscriber, well, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you'll be notified. You select all. And if you like them, give them a big thumbs up. I hope you enjoy.
And what we're going to be talking about today is going to be basically silver. We're not going to stick to a certain area. We're not going to do any soldering today, but I wanted to get some clarification. And I believe it was Harold that had asked a couple of times. He asked about laminating silver plates, and I don't know exactly if he's talking about laminating like an overlay or if he's talking about something else. So if he can clarify that on this uh, post today, then I'll be able to know if it's something that we can address in another one. But that's kind of that's one thing. Like I say, I've got to get clear. Whenever you want to see something, try to be fairly clear about uh, what it is that you're wanting to learn. I mean, there's just so much involved uh, with silver, and there's a lot of different names for things. So a lot of times, one person calls it one thing, one person calls it another, because there are a lot of different techniques that you would laminate metal as far as in uh, metal smithing. And I couldn't think if that was what he wanted to know more about and see, or if it was something else. But like I say, just if you would clarify that. Now we're going to talk about today finishing, and we're going to discuss a lot of polishing techniques, just small things, and try to go over things that may interest some of you that we don't address in these. If you just comment and ask a question, I'll try to catch them. Not to say I will, because I'll be moving around the shop a little bit. But the first thing I want to address, this is a little project I'm going to be working on. We've got a club auction coming up, and I figured I'd make a little piece of jewelry. But when I'm talking about finishing, when you make a bezel, of course this one's already soldered and is finished out. But what you want to do is you want this bezel to fit properly, and you want to be able to take and burnish it in nice. And unless you finish it properly, and when people think about finishing jewelry, a lot of times they think about that shine or whatever you do to polish it up towards the end. You don't think about the processes of finishing it in between. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, this bezel was soldered, and it was soldered over on this side, and you might can see a touch of maybe the area, but what I want to get at is you need to, when you solder your bezel and you make it, you want that to look like a solid piece, and you want to finish it out to where it's a solid piece. And you don't want this area. This will still need to be finished off on the top, but I'll do that after I solder it into place. But you want to do this while you're at this point where it's not attached. It's real hard to finish this off once you get it attached to this base plate. But it's easy enough. You can take usually a sanding stick. Let's see here. Yes, the all the videos are always they're on our group page. That's one reason why when we live stream we do them there, so people aren't hunting around on other pages like my personal page and stuff. I'll share it there, but they're they're always available. So if you can't watch them in their entirety, a lot of times I'll start one whenever it's up, and then things will take me away, and then I can just go back and finish it off. So be aware that's one reason why we do it like this. But while this is out here easy, you can take a sanding stick and you can take and clean this area up, get it down nice and smooth where it's not going to be real stiff in this joint. You're not going to have the inside edge not finished out to where it's going to hold it away from your cabochon and make that place really stand out. It's always a little harder to burnish the area where the solder joint is when you don't work it down to where it's back to the thickness of the metal, because the idea is to make it look like okay. Whenever I start out, I use 400 grit, and then I'll use 1200, just depending. You don't necessarily have to go past 400, because in your other processes you'll get your other compounds will take out 400 scratches, or it depends on the method you use. I guess was what I'm going to get at, because all silversmiths have different methods. Okay, now that we have this worked down, so it's finished out to where we could fit the bezel. Now I always pick it up with my tweezers, because when I pick it up with my tweezers, I can't misform it. Now, if you notice, when I put this down on here, it drops down over here, but you don't want any gaps. A lot of times people will take and they'll fit their bezel and they say, well, I might need extra room because I can't get my stone in or something. If it changes position or something happens in the process, and you might have to take a little off your stone or something, that's going to be a common thing. But in most cases, if you fit it properly, once you put it down onto your backing plate, it's going to be in the right position. And especially when I use a thin bezel and I grab it with my big old fat fingers, and it doesn't take much to squeeze it out of position. That's why I always use the tweezers, and I like it to where I can pick it up off the stone. Now, this one's already been fit and everything, but if you're fitting the bezel, and once you go to put it around and it's there, but you go to pull it off and it doesn't want to hold its shape, the easiest way to overcome that is, now with fine silver like this, you don't really have to worry about fluxing it. Now, I get in the habit of fluxing anything before I anneal it, but if you flux this up, put it on your block, heat it up until your flux clears up, and then throw it back in the pickle, you'll have it back to dead soft. And when it's dead soft, and once you fit it around this stone, it's going to hold that position. If it's got any amount of hardness in areas, that's when it's not going to want to hold that position. Now, I use just a wooden dowel, and that's when I teach my classes, that's what I teach with. But I use this wooden dowel because I can go around it straight on this bezel and make sure that everywhere is even out. If it has a small gap, that gap's going to be distributed all the way around, so there's not going to be a gap. Now, sometimes we get carried away and our bezel fits too tight. Now, anybody that's worked in silver has probably done that. They're filing their joint, and they get everything fit together, and it just is a little too tight. It's an easy thing to overcome. A hand roll mill is one of the cheapest tools that you can purchase. This here is my hand roll mill. Now this is actually a automotive piece that goes in the brake cylinder, master cylinder, between booster and a master cylinder, but all you need is a round piece of dowel, which you can pick up at a lot of hardware stores or something. If you take this round piece of dowel and you want to hold this piece to where you've got it kind of even pressure on both sides, and you just put some pressure down, holding it flat, and roll this around your piece, what it'll do is actually it'll act just like a roll mill, because you have so much pressure in that small area that it'll stretch this out a little bit. Don't get carried away, because you have to get used to it, and you'll find out it doesn't take that much pressure to do it. Now you want to try to hold this flat, because it will tilt to either side, and if you put more pressure on one side, you're actually you'll see your bezel start to curve, because it's just like if you're doing cold forging, which this is just another form of cold forging. Milling would be cold forging too, but you use that, then take your bezel back and fit it around and see if it fits good, because it doesn't take much to lengthen this bezel to where it fits around there. Okay. Let's see. Well, I had some kind of message, but anyway, we'll stick to this because, okay. Now that's one of the tips. Now I'm gonna step back from silvering at this part for a minute, and I'm gonna talk about before you begin. Now, you always need to begin with clean silver. A lot of people, I've seen them whenever they come in the silver shop at a club, and their silver is all tarnished and dark. Now this here's an example. Now I did clean this up some, but you can imagine is much tarnish is on here. How long this had been setting out. Of course, it was from an old collection that somebody they didn't take care of their silver. But there's too much of this on the market, whether it's in little silica gel capsules or if it's in a silica gel desiccant bag. There's too much of this on the market. You know, you get a new piece of electronics and you throw this stuff in the trash. But if you throw this in your container, and some type of Tupperware actually works best for silver because you completely seal it, but it doesn't have to be really airtight. It just throw this in there with it, and your silver, you won't ever have that problem about the initial tarnish and having to clean something up. Don't be afraid if you don't have that. Throw it in a Ziploc bag. I mean, take care of your silver so when you start out, you're starting the process ahead of time. Okay. Let's see. I think that gets a lot of this. Now we're gonna be moving around the shop, and I don't know. It might not be. It might be a little bit chaotic as far as as I move around. So just bear with me, and we'll see if we can learn something today. I'm also I'm gonna switch back, but I might be a little slow to answer any questions, but be sure, like I say, if you have a question, ask it, because with the chances are in most cases, if you have a question, somebody else has that same question. Okay. All right, if my camera person is ready, we'll get to moving around, and we'll see if we can't kind of get an idea of what's going on. Okay. We're going to be talking about finishing, and just pardon the mess. I know everyone says that it's when you do some moving around here. Okay. We're talking about finishing, and when we start talking about finishing, like I say, it's like the total process that's going on. Now, last week we did some casting. I had a big bean cast, and I finally got around to cutting it apart and to make it into some smaller ones that I thought were kind of interesting. Any pieces that I didn't want, I just threw back in there so I could take and deal with. But once you're working in with any silver project, you want to take and you want to smooth it up. Now, bean cast, because it's smooth and rounded like a bean, we want to take off any areas that might be particularly sharp where we cut. We want to round these around and make them look like the rest of the cast and stuff like that. What makes it easiest now you can try to file some of this, but unless you're real good with a file, you're not going to be able to get it like you want, or even your sanding block or nail file or whichever type of thing you use is not going to work. Now, of course, a lot of us have a rotary tool, and for that we might use something like a sanding drum or even some type of diamond burr, or use a diamond file so that we can clean these areas up. And we're just going to work these and clean these up. And I'm not going to work too much on this. I just want to make sure that you have the general idea of what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. In a lot of videos, we're gonna move over here to the other area. Now, in a lot of my videos, I talk about these, which these are from Rio. They're 3M makes them. They're just radial bristle brushes. And I always say they make them in the small size. These here are 3/4 inch, which would fit on any of your rotary tools, Dremel or something like that. Normally you need to stack about 6 of them. Now these here, to me, this is the better buy. But then if you don't have a bigger tool, and plus you can notice these bristles are a little bit bigger, so depending on what you're needing them for, it might be better to go this way. Now these bristles here, there's 6 of them here. They're about $1 a piece. So, and it's not like you're going to use them up. They're going to last a while, but just be aware of what kind of cost you're looking, and then the different colors are different grits. But whenever we go to clean this up, we've been through this before, and I just have my little old thing here. But you're going to try to get, now this is a 400 that I have in here, and I'm just doing this for the sake of showing. But you're going to try to get into all these areas. Now, to me, I might polish everything on the outside, and to me, I kind of like a little bit more of a frosted look in some of these other places. But once I get finished with this, and I'm going to go a little finer, I'll go down to 1 micron, which is pretty fine. But like I say, I still need to clean this other up. But even though it's frosted in these places, once I get finished with this, I always throw it into a tumbler. And anybody that's done a jewelry class or that's actually done it and they've run it through a tumbler after they're finished with all of that, they know the importance of getting jewelry shot, some stainless steel jewelry shot, and putting it in a tumbler. Now, I didn't bring my tumbler in for this particular thing, but I want to make sure that I do say, because there'd been some discussion about tumblers, the little 3-pound tumblers with the plastic or the rubber drums, and people talking about their stuff getting black and everything else, and they're using these little tumblers from I don't know if they're from China or something, but they come. I think they've been saying they come from maybe Harbor Freight or something. But now I use a Loratone. It's got a rubber drum too, but you don't have the problem with them about your shot getting in it. And one thing I want to say, you can leave your shot in there. You use a burnishing compound a lot of times or something. I always use dishwashing detergent, but with no additives. I don't want bleach or something in my burnishing. But what I'm getting at is, after I finish mine, I take it out, I strain it and rinse off the soap, and then I put it in a little plastic tub and let it dry, and I put it back in the bag. So it's not going to get dust and grit in. It's not going to go ahead and have any type of problems with it. You take care of your stuff and it's going to last. Okay, we've got on that long enough. Now what I'm going to go with now, that's behind. That's behind. It's way behind. Okay, we're going to talk about polishing, and that's a big part of finishing. Now I want to show you something here. This is Tripoli. This come with a bunch of stuff that I got that somebody had used, and you look at this, and this has been out into the atmosphere. It's got dust. Now over here where I'm at, we've got a real fine sand. We call it sugar sand. You get that dust, and it's really abrasive. Now, if this gets in there and this gets on your polishing compound, and you have fine particles of quartz compound that's a lot harder than everything else, you're going to end up with scratches. The same way with your wheels. Now my bristle wheel, it doesn't have compound on it, so it doesn't have the problem about getting that dust where it sticks to it. You turn it on, it spin it off, it'd be gone. But I still put them back in the bag when I'm not using them. The same thing with your other tools that need to be in a bag or in a box. But don't use something like this. Now I'm going to use this, but before I use this, if I need Tripoli, I'm going to cut this section off so it's clean, and I start with something fresh that doesn't have a bunch of grit in it. Now, for polishing, you have all kind of wheels. Now this is a wheel I use on my little Diamond Pacific Genie. This just Muslim wheel, and the reason I have it is to show different designs. And next week, I'm going to I'll do a live feed on the Genie and the versatility of it, because a lot of people just think it's a 6-wheel cabin machine and everything else, but I do have a lot of attachments to it, and I can show to where it's more versatile. Now, I don't want to do a marketing for Diamond Pacific, because I was over there and talking about getting a discount for a machine, and I didn't like the way that they addressed it. We're trying to see about buying machines for our club while I was in California. But it still is a good machine, and I want to show you some of the accessories, so we'll do that next week. Now, on contrast to this one actually had the cap put back on, so this is nice and clean. You don't have the problem about the grit in there, and so you don't have to worry about that getting into whatever you have. But whenever you have something, don't be afraid to use a bag. You know, just throw it in a bag, put it in a drawer, and make sure it's marked. Now another thing is on these wheels. Now this is a Muslim wheel. This here's a Muslim wheel. It's just a lot softer wheel and stuff. But there's so many different types of wheels that you can get. You can get little fine Muslim wheels. This is a little bitty one for a rotary tool. This here is actually a felt wheel, but it's you know, it'd be good for a certain design. This is kind of a war Muslim wheel.
Can't see in that bag.
But you have other attachments too. Like now this here is a attachment that would fit right on the end of here. So I can do rings. I can do the center of them and stuff. Of course, it is war. I didn't wear that out, but it is war. I do have attachments that have sanding cones that fit over them, so you can take out more. But if you notice that the different colors, you can tell this one's red. It's had red roux, and it's possibly it could have had something else on it. But what I want to say too is don't use two compounds on the same thing. Now these little kits here, on here this says Trip. This is for Tripoli. Now it has a bunch of different polishing attachment, but all these have Tripoli on them. Now you don't want to use this. Take this and go ahead and use it with red roux or something else. And this one here, same way. This one says red, and this is red roux. You have brushes. Brushes work real well for getting in a lot of the areas with your compound, and the bristles are so fine, so they get into those areas. They'll get compound on them, and they're soft enough that they won't damage. You know, so that's another option. Now I have some other here now. Now this is dark and ugly, but this is something that a lot of people like.
What is?
Is for polishing and whenever they do silver work, which is that's actually is white diamond. It's a common abrasive that's used. Like I say, we've shown red roux, we've shown Tripoli, which Tripoli is normally more of a brown. Red roux is more of a red, and Tripoli is more of a brown color. Now you can get these in different tastes and stuff. Now for silver, when I finish and I do the polish, and because too it's good for a lot of softer stones, I use Zam, which with Zam it works good on a lot of your softer stones that they won't take a good polish with some of your other materials like serum oxide or even tin oxide, but Zam works good on some of them. Some of these stones like Picasso or a lot of the stones that just don't have that hardness to take the shine, but it works real good on silver. And the way I do mine is I keep in the bag the same way. But you notice the bag is marked. Make sure you know what you've been using on that particular buck, because if you don't, you'll end up with something that's not as fine. That there's probably a lot of other materials out there. I'm going to try to step back over here see if there's any questions. Let's see. Yeah, you can solder silver field. You can solder just about anything. When you get to soldering, and it might just be me, but I don't see the sense in using a field instead of a solid type of metal. You're a distance away. I don't know if you heard that or not. I'm going to turn around here and try to answer some of these questions real quick. Okay, let's see. All right. Yeah, like I was saying, I don't know if you heard because the mic was so far away, but you won't have a problem soldering silver field, but I don't know why you would want to solder silver field. It's when you're working with metal. I'd recommend working with something when you put that much effort in it. Put it into something that has some value to it. I mean, for your time, because your time is so important. That's a big factor that goes into it. There's a whole lot more expense in your time than it is in the materials you use. And when you make something in a silver field and you have that a little bit thicker than a silver plated piece of metal, you're not saving that much on the expense of the metal versus how cheap of a product you're going to end up with. Because, like I say, your labor is your biggest expense. Let's see. All right, I think that's kind of got. Okay, the easiest way to clean your silver before you start is going to be throw it in pickle. If you're not familiar with pickle, and there was a discussion, what's the best pickle, and everyone's got their idea of the best pickle. There is a live feed that I did early on that was it went over the basics, and plus I've got a YouTube video I believe that probably goes over it too. But we discussed pickle, and the cheapest pickle that works good. In my opinion, it works as good as any of the others. In fact, better than most. It's pH down. All you need to do is mix a cup of it to a gallon of distilled water, and the key word is distilled water, because when you take and start mixing regular tap water or something in your pickle, you have minerals in there already that's going to affect your pickle and possibly contaminate your metal. It's going to your pickle's going to be as contaminated from the start, but you'll start wondering why my silver's turning colors or something like that, because your pickle's bad to start out with. But pickle is the easiest way. And if you have something that's really oxidized, take and flux it up. Take and flux it good. Heat it up till your flux clears up, and then throw it in your, quench it and throw it in your pickle. But that flux will take a lot of that tarnish off, or it's not fire scale, but it's kind of the same way. Your tarnish on the surface, that flux will take those impurities off the surface and clean it up. That's the key thing too. Whenever you're taking and you're putting using metal for casting. You want to have good, clean metal. And in casting, you can always add borax to take those impurities out, but it's not like you have borax in your flux. Most of your fluxes use something, borax or something similar, as a agent to take those impurities off the surface, and plus help keep your oxygen low, as far so you don't end up building fire scale and stuff like that. But I hope that answers that. I don't see any more questions, and there's probably something that I wanted to bring to you. I just want to let everyone know that we appreciate everyone here. We're trying to get more live videos. I know it is a hard thing for a lot of people to do as far as set up to do this, and you know, it's like anything. There's going to be little snafus that goes on. I've had plenty of those with mine. But it doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of knowledge out there, and by far I'm not a professional at this. I enjoy it as a hobby. I enjoy teaching the basics of it. I don't go way in depth. Cheryl has really went a lot further in her experimentation in making jewelry. She started out, you know, me and a few others helped give her the basic knowledge, and then she ran with it, and she's hadn't slowed down yet. But by far, there's probably a lot of others out there that have the knowledge to do this, to bring these things forward and to do a live video. And it doesn't take much. It can be as simple as doing it with a cell phone. But this group was started a month and a week ago, and we've already have over 4,000 people. And it's not because we've been adding them to the group. It's because people have been finding it, and they've been coming to the group because they want to learn. That's why all of you are here and wasting your time watching me try to show you something. But it's because there's a thirst for knowledge, and there's a lot of you that have knowledge, and you're afraid to teach. You might not be teachers. You might not be people to stand in front of someone, and you might not feel like you're good enough. I know my wife's that way with anything she does. I can't get her to teach it because she doesn't ever feel like she knows enough. Well, a lot of times it's that little bit of knowledge, and Cheryl's a good example of that, because when she wanted to learn and she picked up a little knowledge, and I seen her first stuff and she was really having a hard time, but once she had a grasp of it, and it's not like she had any formal training, but once she got a grasp of it and was explained a few things, and then she started understanding what that was, she's really went on, and so there's a lot of you that have that little bit of knowledge that someone needs to get started, and they have the thirst to go with it. We have someone that keeps asking about hot metal forming and wants to make bugs or something. I can't do that. I it's not something that I'm familiar with or anything, so I can't run with that. But if there's one of you out there that is familiar with that, and especially if you can do a live stream, I'd like to see it. One live stream I'd like to see is I'd like to see the Glass Fusion doing cabochon. So there's a thirst for knowledge, even with some of us that have knowledge in other things. We want to learn more. So don't be afraid. The only way this group is really going to get up to its potential is to have a bunch of you that's out there that's making jewelry, that's doing different things, to step forward and do a live feed. Tutorials are great, but with a live feed, people have the opportunity to ask you questions. So if there's something you missed, you're concentrating on something else and something you missed, they can pick that up and they can go back. Don't worry if you've got to stop in the middle of it. But I just want to say that, and of course, we have our two sister groups, the D-Stash group. I have a problem with the Cabochon Jewelry D-Stash group to say that, but and then we have Cabochon Auction Place, which is another group. So if you need to get rid of your excess jewelry stuff, maybe you went a different way and you have extra stuff there, and you want to get it to people that are starting out and they might be interested in going that way. That's the D-Stash group is a good group for that. And if you're looking for cabochons, or you're looking for a place to auction off some of the jewelry you made with cabochons, Cabochon Auction Place would be the place for that. Now it's strictly for handmade cabochons. Now the D-Stash group is it's a little more lenient on that, but it's not a commercial sales group, so don't think that you can go on there and start selling cabochons that's mass produced and stuff, because that's not what it's designed for. It's designed for people to get rid of the extra things and for other people to get started. And I keep saying I've got some stuff to go on there, but it's always never a chance to find the time. But anyway, next week we're going to be talking about the Genie and the accessories. You'll be surprised at how versatile the machine is. And that's it for today.